Nine. Hello, my lovely petunias. It is I, the blue puppet thingy. I don't know, is that a good Arlo impression, or should I just use my regular talking voice? One of my favorite things that's happened since I started my villain arc on this channel was that many of you would frequently ask me if I was Arlo. So much so that it prompted me to make a video clarifying that I am indeed not Arlo of Arlo stuff. But little did many of you know is that I am a very big fan of Arlo. I just didn't know that some people thought I sounded like him. And so this morning I decided that I was going to make a video discussing the best sales over the past month. Kind of similar type of market research video that I did a month or so ago when I was going through the Black Friday sales throughout the ages. These are fun little side videos that I do, in addition to all of my love towards Nintendo that I regularly provide on my channel. But at the time, I did not realize that there was bigger news today, news that required some type of reaction from me. And it's that our blue friend, not Sonic the Hedgehog, not even Mega Man, the Cookie Monster himself, Arlo of Arlo stuff and Topic Arlo, is starting to sound a little like Nintendine, if I might say. Seriously, look at this thumbnail and this title for his most recent video. I should also preface this and say that I do actually like Arlo's channel a lot, to be honest. Maybe subconsciously he is a little bit of an inspiration for me. Although, I've said this before, it's weird to see him kind of have this image of being a Nintendo glazer after I always viewed him as somebody that was overly critical and kind of a hater for Nintendo. But like, I feel like he's doing it for the wrong reasons. Wrong based off of my own rule set. Like, I mostly just hate Nintendo right now because of their abhorrent prices and their excessive greed. And just the fact that it feels like every time they try to sell you something, you're getting kicked right in the behind as you buy it. In his case, he's just overly critical about gameplay stuff, which I feel like he shouldn't be overly critical about. But that could also just be like the deep Nintendo fanboyness that's nestled inside my heart coming out while I'm speaking. Like, the guy took Paper Mario Sticker Star and made it seem like it was the worst game in the history of video games. And like, come on, dude, like, Metroid Prime 4 is right there. No, that's a joke, that's a joke. They're both like, okay, average-ish games. They just kind of don't live up to their franchise, in my opinion. But he really didn't like Sticker Star, and I think that's kind of where he started to take off. And now all of a sudden, people think he's a glazer for Nintendo, and he's considered one of the positive beacons of hope for the Nintendo fandom out there, especially in these rough times where names like Nintendine are making the rounds around the internet. Okay, but seriously, I'm not joking. I watched this guy's last video. Legitimately, if you close your eyes and you're not paying attention, it sounds like me. Like, even I briefly, while listening to the video in the background, for a moment thought maybe, hey, like, oh, I should go back and edit this out. I realized, no, that's not my video. Unless, of course, you buy into the conspiracy that Arlo is one of my alt channels, or rather, that Nintendine is one of Arlo's alt channels. In which case, he did go back and edit that video, and by he, I mean I, and by I mean Nintendine. Of course, that means Arlo. So, in fairness to Arlo, he's made a few critical videos recently since the Switch 2 has come out. It's not like this is the first thing he's critical about. He has to pay rent like the rest of us grifters, after all. And if you're a Nintendo channel right now, the only way to make money is to either be critical of Nintendo or to, for some reason, all gang up and try to hate on Nintendine, even though you don't get enough views doing that. I don't know why they keep doing that. Tell them to stop. It's only making me grow. I'm just waiting for somebody big enough to make a video about me so that my channel actually explodes. But for now, we'll just take it nice and slow. Anyway, in the past 24 hours, Arlo's channel has two videos. One of them shows the Switch 2 on a literal tombstone. That is Nintendo hate grifting at levels that even I have not reached yet, to be clear. Seriously, this thumbnail is worthy of a Lord Frogmire video. He used the word died in the title. Like, ooh, Arlo, we gotta talk, man. Sesame Street's not gonna be happy about this one. Now, I actually did not watch that video because I am a slop YouTuber who does not do research on this kind of stuff and just speaks for people's entertainment. But if I had to guess, Arlo, knowing him, he's probably just talking about the deal ending and was like, oh, you know, it was great. People were paying $50. And now, I don't know how I'll do if it's at 80. Am I getting better or am I getting worse on these Arlo impressions? Let me know. But in the very next video, and again, these are two videos within 24 hours, just in time for Christmas Eve, his video is titled, "Oh, Nintendo's holiday is not going well." Pay close attention. This is how a good YouTuber does it. They capitalize the right words. The "not going well" sticks out and just smacks the Nintendo fans right in the face. And of course, to add to it, you have, that concerned ARLO face on there with Donkey Kong freaking out in the Switch 2. I don't know, folks. I'm looking at this and I'm like, this could be a Nintending video. This could be a Nintending thumbnail, a Nintending title. I'm not saying that he's copying me, but if you listen to the video, maybe. Or, maybe being his evil twin brother, I just really love him and wish he would acknowledge me in one of his videos. So it could be wishful thinking on my end. What makes this very interesting is that there's quite a few people whose eyes are becoming open to the Switch 2 sales numbers now. Remember, I have really been trying to highlight over the past few months how Nintendo has only been sharing their shipped numbers and not sharing their sold through numbers. Something that is kind of abnormal when a console has just recently launched. Back when the Switch 1 came out, Nintendo had actually released a chart showing how their sold through numbers were doing. Specifically sold through, those are numbers sold to the customer. They haven't mentioned anything about the sold through numbers ever since the end of July when they hit 6 million. And all reports all around the world show that the Switch 2 kind of peaked early on, and there have just been concerns throughout ever since. Even in Japan, where it's been selling very well through the holidays, and it's the only place where the Switch 2 is high in demand, has actually struggled to get to the high numbers that many people expected when the console first launched, because Nintendo was not sending Japan enough units to satiate the demand they have over there. Obviously, because the Switch 2 is cheaper in Japan, so not only would they make less money on consoles that are sold in Japan, but it's also bad because if they decided to ship Japan as many as they wanted, right now the sales report would show like 10 million sold in Japan and 3 million sold everywhere else. I guess closer to like 5 million sold everywhere else, maybe. Anyway, so like a month or so ago, he made a video talking about how the Switch 2 is doing very well. And that's based off of Nintendo's financials, where they shipped out 10.36 million units, and nobody realized that those were just shipped units and not sold units. Nobody except for me, of course. And now, the Nintendo fans sound like Chicken Little. The sky is falling, we must blame the president. Because the Switch 2 had a very awful November, and signs are indicating that December is going to be just as bad. And Nintendo fans cannot acknowledge the fact that the Switch 2 is just not appealing enough for people to purchase, so naturally, they're blaming the economy. Now, ARLO does mention this in his video, because he can't go full-on Nintendine just yet. It's coming soon, though. I can feel it. We will merge and become one. But I do think it's kind of funny that signs are indicating that consumer expenditure is actually not that different than it's been for the past few years. We got a report just today that the gross domestic product has climbed because of consumer spending, and yet Nintendo fans have become the best economists in the world, highlighting that we live in a K-shaped economy, which implies that the expenditure of the consumers is being made up by the rich folks. And in which case, I am not going to argue that point. I thought this was pretty clear from back in April that the Switch 2 was overpriced for what it's offering, and yet Nintendo fans seem to have laughed at all the people that were complaining about the prices of Nintendo products and calling them brokies, and well, the brokies are not buying the Switch 2, so now it looks really bad. But the brokies are still buying PS5s. Actually, they're buying it almost twice as often as they're buying the Switch consoles right now. And those PS5s are at the same price as the Switch 2s, and those PS5s aren't even on a crazy discount, they're just as expensive as they were 5 years ago, which I said over the past few weeks is a big highlight as to why the sales for the PS5 have dropped off. Because in every other console generation prior to this one, consoles that are 5 years into their lifespan are like at least half the cost of what they were when they launched, if not lower. So just to quickly recap, there are 3 major reasons as to why this has been the worst November for consoles in decades, and all of them are equally as important. And none of these reasons have to do with the economy. Poor people, or brokies as you say, will still spend and put themselves in debt. They still have spent this holiday season. They're just buying stuff that's more worth it to them. And of course, the richer folks are also spending. But basically, those 3 reasons as to why we see low hardware sales this year are because the 5-year-old PS5 is selling at the same price it launched at, which is basically the first time since 1995 a console 5 years out is still fully priced. The second reason is because the Xbox is effectively non-existent. They're charging $600+ for that thing right now. That is a pillar of the gaming world, and it's no longer being sold. That fact alone, new Switch 2 or not, would have made this the lowest November in 20 or 30 years, regardless. And then finally, the third reason, which is the biggest reason, the only console that is new in all of this, the only console that should be high in demand, the only console that should be selling out, and if it was actually selling out at the rate that it's supposed to be selling out, which would have been done if it was worth the value that Nintendo's offering or if they actually released games that were system sellers this year. But I think the price point is more than enough to get people to not buy it since it's no longer the budget option. But that third reason is because Nintendo is no longer there to inflate the numbers dramatically like they have in the past decades with their very cheap and very affordable budget option, whether it's a home console or a handheld console. They don't really have a cheap choice out there outside of the Switch Lite, and even that's more expensive than it was last year. And since there are so many Switch Lites already purchased, there are not that many more people that might go out and buy it unless it's on a crazy deal. I just wanted to highlight that right now because every single media outlet is talking about how the US economy is being boosted from expenditures during consumer spending in this holiday season, but the only people that seem to have their eyes closed on this matter are Nintendo fans. They think everybody is struggling, not just Nintendo. And in some regard they are, but a good Nintendo Switch 2 that was not hated by the majority of the fandom out there would absolutely be selling out right now and doubling those sales. Now, hopefully Arlo sees this video and includes this in his content, but for now, I mean, his fans are already probably freaking out enough because he's saying anything remotely critical about Nintendo. And actually, it's funny, I was scrolling through his comment section on his videos and I saw all of the beautiful faces of the people that come to my channel and just spew their hate everywhere, mad that anybody would have the gall to criticize Nintendo. And they are just beating this puppet down. Obviously, using the G word with a hard R. Look, Arlo, I know you're a big channel, so you're probably not going to watch this and you don't even know who I am. But if you do, know that if they turn against you, you will always be welcome over here in the land of the haters. We were all inspired by your critical nature of Nintendo many years ago, and we can use your leadership. And really, since you and I are basically two peas in a pod, we're like King Piccolo and Kami. We can remerge, and together we can save the fandom and bring Nintendo back to its former glory. All right, it's almost midnight. I'm gonna go have breakfast.